It has become more and more challenging to fill vacant units today than it was in previous years. And one of the things that's going to help investors is really making sure they're offering great value, both from a design standpoint as well as an amenities package. Today, we sit down with Marcy Sagel, who helps us understand how to re envision the design for our units to attract tenants and be able to lease up much faster than our competitors. If you are looking to make sure your units stay full, with tenants who want to be there, you definitely want to check out today's conversation right here on Multifamily Insights. Marcy Sagel is the founder and principal of MSA Interiors, a leading commercial interior design firm specializing in multifamily housing, student housing, senior living, affordable housing, and other complex commercial projects. With over 30 years of industry experience, Marcy has established herself as a trusted expert in creating innovative, functional, and aesthetically compelling spaces that align with their clients' strategic goals. Let's welcome to the show, Marcy Sagel.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show today. I'm excited to be here and answer some questions.
Yeah, absolutely, Marcy. Great to have you on the show. I went over your bio and background at a very, very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Sure. So we've been working on multifamily projects, and I say pretty much the gambit from market rate, affordable, senior living, student housing, military housing for a very long time. And we've really grown ourselves in the industry, and we love what we do. And we have brought what we like to think, lots of value, not only dollar wise to our clients, but aesthetically, making it feel more like like your own home when you're in a property. And we're talking outside of the unit in the amenity spaces. We do furniture procurement for all of our projects. Our procurement, everything that you see inside of a space, we've done all of the elevations, all of the millwork drawings, all of the selections and materials for inside the unit, as well as the amenities and exterior courtyards. So we do a lot, and we work with lots of large architecture firms around the country, and we partner with them. The developer picks the architect, and then they also pick us because we have a different niche. We have worked on developing many products for multifamily industry, everything from LVP flooring for some of the biggest and largest manufacturers out there, picking their colors and their finishes for North America, as well as tiles, working on plumbing councils for some of the major plumbing companies, working with some of the biggest and largest quartz dealers out there, picking their color directions and sitting on their design councils. So we like to say that we have a very high knowledge of products and price points of products so that when you are working with us on a project, you do not have to come back and VE down the road because we're VEing as we move along the process and letting you know what those sell price points are.
I love it. First of all, what does VE mean for those who are not familiar?
Value engineered, which is like everybody value engineers every project at this point.
That's right. We got to squeeze out that value. So, Marcy, you talked about, you've been doing this for a long time now, helping multifamily investors really understand the design. You work with the developers themselves, you work with architects, and you help really bring these spaces to life. I know you focus mainly on kind of new construction, at least it sounds like from what you described. Do you work with existing properties in the redevelopment as well?
Yeah, we certainly do. We do very many renovations are part of our yearly portfolio of what we work on. But in addition to yearly portfolios, every project needs a refresh at some point, 5, 10, 15 years down the line. And we work with a lot of the very large management groups to work on their renovations. So they'll call us in sort of a year before they need it. We'll do a walkthrough. We'll give them budgets. They put those budgets in for the following year. And, you might do a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. So they might have just bought a building and it needs a refresh, but they might not be able to afford it all at the beginning. So we might do, a 3, 5, 10-year plan where we're doing certain segment of the renovation and building that into their estimated budget each year so that they know exactly how much they're going to spend.
No, I appreciate you breaking that down. So there are a couple things for our listeners, right? One, you may not be buying properties large enough where you require like your own interior designer or your own architects. With that said, I think there's a lot of value from speaking to someone in this space to understand trends and how to create value. So I want you to pay attention and still lock into the conversation. And those who are operating at a larger level, let's definitely make sure we get some value there as far as what to look out for and when to bring in someone like yourself. Let's start high level though, right? One, the market has shifted drastically from a couple of years ago, right? A couple of years ago, you could slap some paint on a wall, you can, put in some LVP floors and probably push rents $200 in many markets, right? That is not the case today. And I know a lot of operators are being really, really tight and really, really intentional with which kind of design renovations they're making, whether it's for new development, whether it's for redevelopment property, value add, multifamily. We all know that you can't just go in there, fix up the kitchens, fix up the baths and print money. Like that is not the play today. What are you seeing from a design standpoint as far as what actually still moves the needle as far as creating value for the resident, for the property, and maybe what is a bit either outdated or isn't as valuable to those tenants?
Sure. So let's try. Well, we'll start with the units, and then we'll jump over to the amenity if that's okay. So when you walk into a space, regardless of how small or how large it is, you want to get that instant feeling that you're comfortable. So the amenity space is really, really important. But ultimately, a person is renting the unit. So we want to look for something that might have larger closets than they did in the past. So if you're doing a renovation, you really want to give people a walk-in closet or a closet that really can give as much space as possible because that's what people want. They don't want a little teeny closet like we used to have in the old days. So they want a large closet. They want to feel that they have, laundry in unit if possible, which is always best. And it can be a stackable full size. And we definitely have favorites over others, but we also are looking at updating in a unit. You want to update the lighting, absolutely. And you want to update, if you can, any of the countertop materials and kitchen cabinetry. And again, it depends on your budget, but people want to feel like they're getting a fresh palette when they walk into their unit.
I heard you say a couple things. One, just the overall feel of the space. You talked about the closet, the laundry, washer and dryers, whether it's stackable side by side, and then the cabinets. Those are kind of the main things that you want to refresh. I appreciate you breaking that down. You said that you definitely have a preference when it comes to at least the laundry side of it. What is that preference?
So when you do a stackable, and a lot of these, we do side by sides on some of the larger units, but typically we do a stackable unit, and people make the mistake of not getting full size stackable units. You want to make sure they're full size so that you can actually wash sheets and towels in them. Because if they're not full size, they're really going to take multiple. You're going to put 2 or 3 items in it, and that's all you're going to be able to put in it. So while they're smaller in size, you want to make sure the inside is full size. So that's my recommendation on that.
No, great tips right there. So, hey, for all of our guys out there listening, guys and gals, make sure you're getting full size stackable units. Those are ones that are going to, one, maximize your space, right? Your footprint, but also allow the functionality to be there as well. What are some of the mistakes you see other designers make? Whether it be they're not using designers or, when you go into a space and you say, oh man, I wish, like, why did they do this? Like, what's a common mistake you see in multifamily?
So in every project, we redline all of our units, okay? New build, renovation, whatever it is. And the reason we do that is because there's lots of ways to save money. If you're putting new cabinetry in, for example, you may not necessarily need a full-size pantry built out of the cabinet material. Okay, that's expensive. So there's certain tips in cabinetry that we use. And the other thing that I like to mention to developers is that not all architects or layouts are favorable to the living room having as much couch space as possible. Everyone likes to get a West Elm, sectional or, something more modern that's sleek. And if you're going to do that, you need to look at how the walls are laid out and the openings and the doors and where the TV is going to go. You've got to always have in mind, where is the TV going? Even if it's going on a console or you're going to put a plug outlet on the wall. A lot of people like to put a plug outlet on the wall now because that's really what people want. So that they can put their TV on the wall and that you don't have to come back and repair the wall every single time you do a turnover. I just moved my niece and nephew out of a very big building not far from here. And my niece paid someone to come in and put a TV on her bedroom wall. Okay. So if you have the thought of looking at where furniture is laid out, it's very important to do that, not only from a marketing standpoint. You want to do the layout and show people where their furniture can go and how they might be able to maximize the space. And that's why we do those layouts for a lot of the large management companies out there. Um, it's also really important to look at how many doors you have. A lot of these units come with just a zillion doors. And there's very simple ways that we can kind of like add walls, elongate the wall, and move the door. Very simple things that make it a much more functional space. You know, all developers know that in a building, you have spaces that are laid out very nicely. And then you have what I call the few awkward layouts that are just very difficult. So again, just simple changes may make it a less difficult unit to rent. So you want to really look at that and see what you can do to maximize that layout of the furniture in the living room.
I love that. You gave a couple of really important things there. One, where's the TV going, right? Think about your renter. One of the first things they're going to do in that living room space is figure out where that couch is, where's the TV going. They got to envision themselves living in that unit and it's sitting on a couch watching a game or watching whatever it is they're doing. So you want to see that. Then you talked about in the bedroom, really thinking about like, whether where the TV is going there, where your bed going, but then also looking at the doors. Where are the doors? Lots of units have lots of doors and sometimes they're not placed in an appropriate, location where it's either choppy or breaks up the room and you can't put the couch there because it's going to be right in front of that door, or you can only put a small, chair there. So really understanding kind of that room layout can help tremendously. I remember the very first commercial property I bought. It was an 8-unit building, and we never really got to execute our business plan. But the guy we sold it to, he came in, and one of the things that they did first, they were measuring, and they wanted to move the entry door about 12 inches. And they were adamant that they wanted to move it about 12 inches. That would have allowed them to put a bigger countertop so they can make an L-shaped kitchen. And we kind of had not a galley, it was kind of like a single row kitchen. And I was like, all right, that seems like a lot of effort to move a door, a foot. But they did. And my understanding, last time I checked, they were getting like $300 more rent than I was getting. So what do I know? But I think those things do matter, right? If you can come in with the vision and understand the reasoning behind it and what a resident is looking for, those design decisions can make the difference in, getting great rents or struggling. Right now, we know there are a lot of properties that are struggling with occupancy. We have seen occupancy dip in many, many markets. We're seeing those new development properties that are coming online that are offering a lot of concessions. So there's a lot of competition in the marketplace. We know amenities is one of the things that sets communities apart. Talk to us about those key amenities that communities need to have today and what really allows these communities to stand out versus the competition.
Sure. So, when we're doing a project for someone, what I recommend is you take a look at all of your competing properties, every single one of them. Make a list of 10 of your closest competitors. Look at their amenities that they offer. Look at what their visuals look like. How is it designed? What are their finishes? What does the unit look like? And what are their rents? And that's how you start to determine the direction you need to go in and what it's going to look like, by making sure that if you figure out your price point and where you're going to put your rents, then you can actually take a look at your competitors and see what they don't have. Like if you have 10 projects around you and they all sort of look the same, you don't want to look the same. You want to look different. And it helps you to kind of set the creative goal for yourself. And so when for instance, I will go and teach a master's class. I'll be a guest speaker, for instance, at a number of real estate management classes where a lot of developers are getting a master's in real estate. I'll come in there. They're all financial people. They have absolutely no idea how to make it look good. And not only how to make it look good, but how to make the decisions on how to make it look good. Because the decisions are right in front of you. If you look at all of your competitors and you list out all of the amenities that they have, let's do something different. Let's add value. Let's add some amenities that they don't have. Let's make something more unique and boutique. Let's figure out what do we make it look like that's different than the competitor. Let's give a little bit more. If their units are really subpar, but they have a nice amenity area, let's jump the units up. And that's really where you can gain some rent value against your competitors. The key to major lease up, and our projects have major lease up right out of the gate. Okay. We get patted on the back all the time by the management groups because we pay attention to how fast something leases up. It leases up because you're giving people what they can't get from around the area that you're competing against. So you really want to look at that. And that's how you do it, by doing your own research and listing out all of those things and go on a tour of all of those other properties. Go physically look at them and take a look at what stands out to you and what is not comfortable for you. And those are the things when we go to do your building that we stay away from. And that's what I tell people to do to gain that knowledge and to help them make a decision about the direction creatively to go in from an interior design standpoint.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing that many operators miss. I think many operators will go, they'll look at comps, they'll see what rents are, they'll get a general sense for the kind of finishes that those units are getting, and they'll just copy and paste in most cases and say, okay, hey, we need granite countertops, or we need quartz countertops, or we need shaker style cabinets. And they kind of go out and they try to replicate what they've seen in the marketplace. And it's, you know, if it's good, they get what those units are getting, right? And for many, that's great. That's what they wanted, right? Hey, I know if I do X, Y, Z, I should be able to get this. And a lot of times that's great. What we've seen now, though, is that the market shifted so drastically that that's not enough, because a lot of those units are struggling, right? There are a lot of concessions from those folks who have brought these properties online. So what you're getting at is be better, right? Be unique, actually bring value, do something that the market has not seen. And that doesn't mean go out there and just, paint everything black and just be completely different, right? But it's understanding like, hey, how can we create more value? What can we offer that is missing in the marketplace? Or how do we stand out or tweak? Or there's different insights you're going to gather from doing the research. And I don't know if everyone's looking at the business from that standpoint. I think a lot of people are just, treating it like a rental property, go buy out and treat it like every other rental property, run the numbers and be good. And you're talking about really making sure that that design aesthetic is there where it's appealing and it's part of your marketing package. It's a part of the thing that's going to draw in a prospect where they can't find that somewhere else. And that's harder to do because that's more of the art side of it, right? That's not the engineering side or the math side of it. That's more of the art and design side of it. But that's the thing that can really allow you to stand out in the marketplace like today. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe either, maybe a project you really like where you brought this to light, or kind of one of your favorite case studies there?
So we have a smaller building in an area where there's a university, okay? And it's multifamily, market rate, a lot of competition from all the big guys, okay? So perfect example, how do you make it stand out? How do you make it different? So we made it like a boutique hotel, more unique, more interesting amenity items, golf, everybody has a golf simulator, but, the kind of hangout speakeasy rooms that make it more unique and exciting for, graduate students or students that are, living on their own and can afford it. You know, there's a lot of fun things that you can do to make it more unique. People like new. They always like new. They love moving into a new building as the first tenant. But typically in this area, we have a lot of turnover because people are students and then they leave. But new students come in. And so you really want to make it feel upper scale, okay, to compete. We have another building from another developer, same kind of thing. It's right in the middle of like massive amounts of private apartments, because that's what people from all over the world are choosing to do with this particular university, because they want unique, they want exciting. So depending on the level of rent that you're going to get, this next one that we're working on, it's very high level. It's super, super boutique. I would call it like highest level boutique. So we're going to be making that exciting, not expensive. I take that word back, because as fancy as it's going to look inside does not mean more expensive. And I try to explain that to people. I can pick a $1.50 tile and still give you a great look for the units in the bathroom. You don't need to pick a $10 and $20 tile to make it look higher end. We can still pick something that's in that lower price category and still make it feel like it's very high level. In the past, we work on a lot of affordable houses projects, and there's a lot of different groups that work on them together, and there's private funding, public funding, all kinds of different things, and developers that just specialize in affordable housing. In the past, people used to say, don't make it look expensive because we have to answer to public housing, okay? And I'm like, what do you mean, don't make it look expensive? We always want something to look as good as it can be for as least expensive as it can possibly be. It doesn't matter if it looks great. If we can show that the numbers are low and we did not go out of budget, we stay in budget and still make it look great. Hey, we're doing a million things great then. We're making a lot of people happy. We are, people are excited to live there. They feel ownership and they feel, valued. But when you say don't make it look expensive, that's kind of a silly term to me, because yes, we want it to look really expensive, but without being expensive. So that's the difference. And we say that in every project. You do not have to spend a fortune to make it look great. And when you start to ask the prices of things and you know what they are when you're buying them, you're going to get a lot more value out of it. Okay. We don't want you to put a plank floor in, a vinyl plank floor that's going to peel in 2 years. Because guess what? Even though it's inexpensive, you still have to pay to install it. And it's labor to come in and do it while someone's living in the unit. You want it to last for a really long time. So we don't try new things just because they're cheaper. We've already done all of the digging and education that we need to do to make sure that the product's going to work and hold up for you. And that's a really key factor. Just grabbing products that are cheap, that someone's selling you to get rid of, is not necessarily always the cheapest way to go. It's better to deal with larger companies that are the vendors that are supplying the materials, flooring vendors, tile vendors, those kinds of things. But they can guarantee you a warranty that it's going to hold up. That's really what you want. You want that, 10-year warranty. You want it to hold up, because especially if you're working on smaller projects, who wants to come back and redo something 5 and 10 years later? You don't want to do that. You want it to hold up as long as it can hold up.
And that's one of those insights that makes so much sense when we hear someone like you say it. But I think for most investors who are numbers driven, when you see this thing costs $3 a square foot and this thing costs $2 a square foot, the $2 a square foot wins in a lot of cases, right? Especially if it's not going to be that much of a rent bump or add incremental value in their perceived eye. But the point that you're missing is the quality of the material. And I remember I spoke to another investor not too long ago, and they told me they were, spending $8,000 renovating units, but someone would move out in, let's just say, a year, and the material, the flooring in particular, would be so damaged that they would end up having to spend another $3, $4, $5,000 right after that. So it's like, okay, you're now spending $11,000, $12,000 on this unit. You probably could have, done a better job or used better materials that first time around, and hopefully had that unit stay intact a little bit more and handle some of that wear and tear. Marcy, great information so far. For our listeners who want to learn more, I know you've got MSA Interiors, but you also have this newer project, Designer Bank. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So MSA Interiors is the design firm. And then we've trained a lot of designers over the years. And so because of that, we wanted to create a company called Designer Bank that basically teaches you. You go online, you learn these modules, and anyone can do it. You can learn Revit. You can learn how to render. You can learn how to do large scale or small scale space planning. So if you were a developer and you wanted to be able to, do something in a computer program, we show you how to do that so that you can start to think about how things are laying out and space planning. We also have one, we launched with 13. We're going to be having 30 at the end of the year. We have one on lighting, how lighting really affects the space and learning all of the details about that. We have one on tile and flooring materials, one on tile and porcelain, and it tells you all the difference between all of them, and another on flooring. And it talks to you about those differences. And every single person teaching them is immersed in the industry for a very, very long period of time. So you get a lot of knowledge and nuggets from all of these different people that are basically coming to you and telling you about a product. So
I love it. Well, check that out. It's designerbank.com. Again, designerbank.com. Lots of great information there. And I got to tell you, I was talking to one of my coaching clients earlier this week, actually late last week, and we were going through one of his properties, his 30-unit building, and the rents he was expecting to get, he's not getting right now. And we looked at some of the comps. The comps were all offering concessions. So we just sat through and I told him, hey, I want to pull up the listing. I want to look at the pictures. And we started going through the design choices. And I got to tell you, I was a little disappointed because when I looked at it, I was pointing out all these little things. And I'm like, listen, if I can see this through the picture, right? Like I promise you, when a prospect comes through, they're going to judge this and they're judging this against their other options. So when you told me these were your comps, that was the bar. You got to at least meet that. So we went through and we went kind of, room by room, detail by detail. We called out, you got to change that. You got to fix this. You got to do that. Everything from the light switches to the kitchen cabinets to the light fixtures, the paint color. He needed professional photography. He just grabbed some shots himself. I'm like, you need professional photography, man. So we went through all of that because the details do matter. And again, maybe a couple of years ago when there was so little inventory that, if you had a decent unit in a decent neighborhood, it was going to get swapped up really quickly. That's not the case today. And the buyers, the tenants, they have the leverage. So you got to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. Design does matter. It does impact your ability to lease units quickly. So make sure you're taking some of the advice and feedback we got from this conversation here with Marcy. Right now, we're going to transition and go to our round of insights. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. All right, Marcy, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Sure. So every industry, when you start out in the industry, I like to say I learn something every single day from every single person that not only works here, but all of our clients and vendors that we work with. I'm always gaining value from what I learn. So a big failure was a floor. I was told by a client that I had to use a particular flooring vendor. Okay. It happens all the time. And I said, okay. And the flooring sub, and this was a large building, maybe 300 units. The flooring sub, who was hired by the general contractor, puts the floor in, and by rule, you are supposed to take a moisture reading every single week. Okay, people forget this. This is super, super, super important. It's not only important with wood, it's important with everything that goes into a unit. You've got to take a moisture reading each week. We like to see what that moisture reading is before and during the installation. And you have to make sure that the temperature is already controlled in the building when you put a real wood flooring in, okay? So this real wood floor was put into the unit. It was a platinum building in DC, Washington, DC, and they put the floor in. They only took one moisture reading at the beginning, and they never took another one. And that stuff it's all right there for the GCC and Procore, whatever they're using now. Everybody's got their own version of what they're using. And so the flooring got put in. It did not have enough of a gap at the end. Okay, and you know where this is going. So the floor buckles, okay? And all the units are in. So the immediate thing that the flooring sub does is says it's a failure of product, okay? So a privately hired top inspector is sent out to inspect the product, okay? And writes the report. Then they do a report of their own. They go out and get another report from another inspector. Everybody says the same thing, okay? That it's not product failure, that the product was taken too far, didn't give it enough of an expansion. The moisture was too much for the product. And on the spec sheet, and this is really important, you have to follow exactly what's on the specification of the manufacturer. They tell you exactly what it needs to be. And if you follow that, you will not have a failure. And so it's not our job, it's the GC's job to oversee and make sure that that stuff is being done properly. And if not, you will have failures. And so every product, you have to follow those specifications when it's being put in. And you have to make sure that whoever's installing it understands that. And so these guys had to replace it. And the client called me and said, I'm going to sue the flooring company. And I said, let's wait and see what happens. And of course, the flooring company had to come back and reinstall. They're insured. They had to reinstall brand new flooring, and for 300 units.
I know that was not cheap, so appreciate you sharing that
and
that
again,
story
it's not
there.
my failure. We picked the material that the client told us to pick, okay? But the installer did not follow what the protocol is for wood floor, and that's why you have a failure. And so we walked in, and we do walkthroughs all the time when things are being installed, and I happened to notice that there was not enough of a gap. And I brought that to the attention of the GC and the client. I wrote them an email, put it in writing, sent it off to them. But they didn't stop the process early enough. I think they might have not gotten all 300 units, but 3/4 of the way through. And we could have been maybe 1/4 of the way through if they had followed that sort of protocol. So moisture is a really big key thing in a building. And you have to really pay attention to that. You have to take those moisture readings.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for our listeners.
So a digital or mobile resource. So I carry with me at all times my digital measurement tool, because at any given time, I need to check a measurement on a job site to make sure millwork is going to be going in, or a built-in bench, or whatever we're doing furniture-wise. There's always some kind of measurement that I need, and I love my digital lasers. They're amazing. Would never I have a traditional measuring tool as well, but I love my digital measurements. Those lasers are amazing.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I love the book Profit First, and I always have a ton of books behind me because I'm always reading something to kind of grow my knowledge from other people. And that's why I'm in an entrepreneurs group. I get so much wealth of knowledge from my entrepreneurs group. It's just always new and interesting, something that they teach me. So I love Profit First because during the 08-11 downsize of the economy, similar to what we've had in the last couple of years, I had too many eggs in one basket. And I said, if I come out of this alive, I'm going to diversify my revenue streams. And so I thought maybe 5, but we actually have like 10 revenue streams now. And so no matter what the economy does, I feel like we're going to survive and do well because we've made all of those different revenue streams, and not all of them are the same. So that's super important. I like to tell everybody that, developers as well, don't have all the same product, had different types of products, different markets, and diversify what you're investing in so that you can make sure any downsize you can survive.
What's a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
My daily habit is I love Pilates. I like to work out and keep fit and get my mind straight. But I also like to keep a journal. I like to keep a journal in the morning when I get up. So I have sort of my intentions for the day. What do I need to do for today? And how am I going to accomplish it? If I write in my journal, I'm going to make sure I get it done.
I love that. All right, give me your number one insight for great interior design.
One insight. Well, designers are great, but they're working for you. So ultimately, you get to make the decision on what you want. It's good to listen to what they're putting out for you, but you want to make sure that you're guiding it to be the end result that you want it to be, because no one should be telling you every single thing that you should be doing. They should be making recommendations and giving you multiple choices, and you should be making the decision. They shouldn't come to you with one choice, one space plan. You want to look at options, and you will make that decision what works best for you and your development.
I love it. All right, you are in the Baltimore area. Give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Oh boy. Well, I'm definitely a food person, and I love food. So I couldn't necessarily pick one place, but Baltimore is known for steamed crabs and steamed shrimp. And so I love steamed crabs, and I like a steamed crab place that's on the water. So I love to go open crabs with a group of people. Gives you a really great opportunity to spend a couple hours talking to people while you're picking crabs. So that's a fun thing to do.
I love it. Sounds like a fun time out there. Well, you gave us a lot of great stuff, right? You talked about kind of just your background in design, helping us understand what to think about, understanding how to visualize the space, both from an interior standpoint as well as the amenities, but really making sure that the space is unique, that you're bringing value to this place and standing out in a crowded, competitive marketplace. Don't just try to be like everyone else, be better, and do so on a budget. Do so and still be affordable or offer value to those residents so you can be profitable. Lots of great insights there, and I appreciate you sharing more about kind of your journey. And for those who want to learn more about kind of design and maybe learn how to be a better designer themselves, check out the website, designerbank.com. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. Thank you again for your time today. We look forward to staying in touch with you and hope you have a great day.